at present, her mother doesn't want her to be there in Kolkata again. She wants her back to Bankura. And she now wants her to take admission in MA in Bankura University. So these trends are emerging that people are leaving the big urbanized centers and they are coming back to their hometown. Let us see what kind of dimension the new human civilization takes in near future. Uh, at the very beginning, I would like to thank our first speaker, Professor Nivedita Mukherjee, professor of Sidhu Kanu Birsha University, and her very long academic career, her erudite in this field, has made her quite famous among us. She has uh, written a few books published from very recognized, well recognized, and international publication houses. I will mention a few, such as Gendering the Narrative, Gender Discourse on Indian and Indian English Fiction. It was published by Newcastle, UK, Cambridge Scholar publication. The second one is Dynamics of Diasporic Identity in Commonwealth Literature. It was published by Authors Press. The Dark Forces in Shakespeare's Plays, published by Adi publication. The Fictional World of Amitav Ghosh. It was also published by Authors Press. Indian Theatre in English and Literary Feminism, Politics of Gender and Identity and Authenticity, published by Authors Press in 2012. She has received some significant honors and fellowships, such as the USA State Fellowship Award. She is working with the Teaching Learning Center, IIT Kharagpur, as a research collaborator and subject expert in the project titled Graphic Novel, based on pedagogy for teaching grammar in schools. She has been nominated for Academician Award by International Association of Social Sciences in 2014. She has already completed a minor project promoted by the UGC in 2009, and she is presently working on an ICSSR funded project. She has an international teaching experience in the Seattle University in USA. It was a tenure teaching for 45 days, and she has editorial experience. She has edited the Wesleyan Journal of Research. The journal is published by Bankura Christian College, as well as she has been the editor of Appropriations. This journal is also published by Bankura Christian College, the Department of English, especially it's a departmental journal. So at the very beginning, I would like to request Professor Nivedita Mukherjee to deliver a lecture. So Nivedita, please.
Yes, thank you, Saurabh,
Welcome.
for that long introduction. I don't think it was really that much was needed because most of you people know me. I'm here almost at home with you people. So now, before I start my presentation, I would like to actually project upon the present situation and the things that we are being made to think about nature, and that is very important now. All right, it is almost, there was up to a phase we were thinking the man has tamed nature, but nature has now raised its head and it is making us understand very well that actually we are guests. All right, and if nature chooses, she can very well do without us. There have been famous writers who have understood this importance of nature. And today I speak about one of them, Mahashweta Devi. And as we all know, she was actually, Mahashweta Devi needs no introduction. But the most important thing that strikes us when we speak about her is her empathy. whatever she wrote. And she wrote mostly for the downtrodden, the neglected sector of society. She went and lived with them. She saw herself, their living conditions, and she raised questions. So most of her writings are not really fiction in that sense. We can rather call it naturalized fiction or historicized fiction. And for this, she got a number of awards: Shahitya Academy Award, Ganpit Award, Raman Magsaysay Award, Padma Shri, Padma Vibhushan. But actually, when we think of it, she herself once said that it is not really the awards that are important to her. She writes about real people and real issues, and it doesn't cater. She herself always actually emphasized upon this idea that she doesn't cater to a specific ideology. We know she began by supporting the left because the left was originally working for the downtrodden section of society. Then she changed when she saw that a change was necessary for Bengal. She changed her point of view, but one thing remained constant. That is her battle for the Mundas, the Lodhas, the Shabars. Actually, now we have divided a region. As we think of it, we are really concerned about the portion of the forest land, the Jungle Mahal, that falls within the West Bengal border. But Mahashweta Devi, she always said, no, borders cannot divide forests, nor can humans be divided by borders. She was always raising questions about the people who live in the Chotanagpur region. I'll be coming to that later on. But her questions were related to the people who had made the forest their home, but slowly they were losing the forest. Of course, I won't say that it happened in the 20th century or the 21st century. It began much, much earlier with the coming of the British imperialism. This exploitation of the Chotanagpur area had already begun. Over here, I would like to draw your attention to this statue, because Mahashweta Devi has repeatedly referred to this statue in her talks, in her interviews, in her writings. This is a statue of Birsa Munda, which we find in Ranchi. But there is something strange about the statue. The statue is actually represents Birsa Munda in handcuffs. And Mahashweta Devi, again and again, her first novel, which actually, I won't say the first novel, but her first famous novel, which actually won her the Shahitya Academy Award, was Aranyer Odhikar, where she spoke about these people, especially about the Battle of Birsa Munda. And the question she raised again and again, স্বাধীন দেশে কেন এই হাতকড়া থাকবে? And you know, it is strange. Today is 2nd June. As I was going through my data and my notes, what I found is that, remember, she wrote the book in 1977, long back. And in 2016, 2nd June, the Jharkhand government, they decided to put up a new statue which does not have the handcuffs. So we can understand the real purpose of her battle. Awards were not the purpose of her battle. The purpose was to fight for the people who actually fought for their motherland. Over here again, I would like to draw the attention of the listeners to to the difference between the tribal freedom fighters and the nationalist leaders or the freedom fighters. The nationalist leaders, in their concept, there was a motherland whom they wanted to set free. But Mahashweta Devi writes that for these people, the Mundas, the Lodas, the Sabars, actually their motherland was the forest land. They even actually worshipped the forest. She says over here, this is very strange. Once a tribal girl asked her that when we go to school, we read about Mahatma Gandhi. Did we have no heroes? Did we always suffer like this? And that is when Mahashweta Devi says that she started thinking about the tribal heroes. And what did she find? Of course, there were number of leaders, but as we know, right up to a period, the history, initially it was white history, which looked down upon the racial colonies. Next, we may have had our own historians, but again, they did not give that much space to the underprivileged. So, as a result, the underprivileged did not find a representation in history. And when Mahashweta Devi thought of writing about these people, she was actually thinking about to how to make the masses aware of the battles which these people have fought again and again. So she says, remember, the tribal areas of Bengal are part of tribal areas in their vicinity, even if they belong to other states. They do not belong to this or that state. They belong to each other. The tribal world and the tribal way is complete in itself. So she gives them a kind of space of their own, the forest land. It may be in West Bengal, it may be in Jharkhand, it may be in certain parts of Orissa. It is in totality one land, and that is the tribal land. In fact, again in an interview with Spivak, you all know Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak actually translated quite a number of stories written by Mahashweta Devi, and she said India belongs to the tribals long before the incursion of the Aryan speaking people. The Ramayana seems to contain evidence of how they were oppressed, evicted from their homeland. So actually, if we take this bigger or rather broader vision, what we find is that the original inhabitants of the land which we called Aryavat to a certain period or Bharat, actually were pushed or relegated to the periphery of existence with the coming of the Aryans. So the subjugation or almost non-human representation of the tribals began much earlier than the British do. All right. So she was thinking about these people, and this is what made her write this very popular work, Oroned Odhikar. All right. It is a historic fiction about Birsa Munda. To the people of the Jungle Mahal area, Birsa Munda needs no introduction because he was one who fought for the people, for his people. Over here again, there is a differentiation. Obviously, for this book, as I told you all, we received the Sahitya Academy Award, but It did not have much meaning
Roma
for her.
করোটা বের করো আরে
Now, the problematics, I request those who are not speaking to kindly turn off your microphones, your audio, please. Okay, thank you. So, if we come to the problematics too of the research question, that is the arboreal politics. This concept was actually introduced in 1980 in a book, A Thousand Plateaus, by the French philosopher Deleuze and the psychoanalyst Guattari. Okay. Now, they presented trees and forests in an entirely different perspective from that we are used to. They said, we are tired of trees, should stop believing in trees, roots, and radicals, for they have made us suffer too much. All right. So they were actually speaking, they saw certain areas of connection between the colonial rulers, the imperial rulers, and the forests or the trees. If we think of the hierarchy, the rootedness, repetition, reaffirming the origin, and sameness at the expense of difference. All these things, the jungle actually has these things. The trees, if we think deeply, they do have this kind of an attitude or presentation, and this made these two French men think of them as imperial rulers. But Mahashweta Devi, in her imaginary maps in the book, she herself actually questions this point of view. She speaks of a colonial motive in this identification of the natives with the wilderness. And thereby she exposes this agency of nationalist expulsion and marginalization of the indigenous population. So for her, the trees, the jungles, do not really speak of the arboreal politics of imperialism, rather, it speaks of a politics of survival. Now, over here, we come into even deeper problematic zone. What is that problematics? Let us think most of Devi's works have been translated into English. Aranya Rodhikar was translated as Rights of the Forest. But those of us, and most of us, have done some study, we have some study of linguistics, and that makes this title highly ambiguous. Aranyর অধিকার, কার অধিকার? All right, who has the right? Is it the forest people who have the right to the forest? Or is it the forest itself as an entity which has a right to exist? As I told you, in this world of the coronavirus raging through us, this question about the right becomes very, very important. All right. So, what we have found is that the Chotanagpur area, if we look at it, it was very famous in the sense it was a rich store of famous, you can say it was a rich store of iron ore, coal, steel, mica, copper. All right, minerals, rich minerals. So obviously the colonial rulers could not leave these storehouses unexplored. And what they did, they started cutting down trees, they started creating mines to bring out this rich material, and as a result, these forest people were kind of pushed to the periphery. All right. So, in this text, actually, Mahashweta Devi, she talks about Birsa Munda, and in doing so, she makes use of oral narratives. All right, she makes use of colonial archives, the official documents and records which she could get her hand on to, and she speaks about Birsa Munda and through him the life of the Mundas. Now, as usually in an oral narrative, this novel also, Aranye Odhikar, has a number of narrators. The main one over there is Dhani Munda, who is a veteran, and he speaks about he had actually taken part in this battle which Birsa Munda fought. All right. And as Birsa Munda, actually, he says that Birsa Munda, the entire story is represented as Birsa Munda, who has already been captured, and he's thinking back. All right. He's thinking about his life, and he says that for Mundas, rice is only a dream. We are all used to eating rice. Rice and wheat is the staple food of the Indians. But for the Mundas, this was a luxury. So, what did they eat? Their food was ghato, a gruel made of China grass. All right. So, Birsa, his battle was for rice. The right to the forest, the right to cultivation, the right to production. He has asked for all these things. So, as we go on, we will find that there is an intrinsic relation between this Chotanag, the forest in the Chotanagpur area, and the Mundas. They were the original inhabitants. In fact, the name is taken from their forefathers, Chutiaharam and Nagu. Together it became Chotanagpur. All right. And they used to go to the forest for hunting. They made fields for farming. And their god was the forest god who was known as Singhonga. All right. So now, Mahashweta Devi, what she does is that she relates Birsa intrinsically to this forest to show how each belongs to the other. I have already spoken to y'all or introduced the question, Karodhikar, whose right? Is it the right of the forest to live well, or is it the right of the forest people to be able to live or to follow their original way of sustenance in the forest? And we must know that the time has come that we learn about nature sustenance and personal sustenance from these indigenous people, because they know how to use the forest and at the same time unuse the forest. Let the forest thrive. Now, in this text, there are repeated references to the forest, the jungle, this entire concept of each belonging to the other. So, what does Birsa say? Birsa felt that the black virgin forest goddess was stretching her both arms and calling out, all this land is ours. This entire land belongs to us. We won't allow anyone, be it the Dikus, they call the money lenders and the merchants who came to these areas as representatives of the white colonizers, the Diku. You know, the story of Birsa Munda, I will ask those of you who haven't read Aranya Rodhika to go back to it, and we will find there is a strange, a cohesive journey of Birsa Munda from one to the other. Birsa Munda, as the tribal children were in those days, he was sent to a British mission school. All right. So he first found how this English system of education actually detribalized the tribals or tried to do this. So he started protesting, he was sent out of the mission, and then he goes back to the scriptures. He again makes a travel, or he travels to an ashram. All right. And over there also, he finds that Hinduism does not have any place for the tribals. And then finally he revolts. Dhani says, I told you most of this story is as a narrative being reiterated by Dhani Munda. And Dhani Munda says that when Bitsa was kind of disheartened with this entire system, the system which the upper class, both the white people and the so-called Indians, he was dissatisfied with all this, and he used to roam the forest. He found a connection of his soul with the forest, and Dhani could not understand what is happening. This person who used to give speeches, who used to protest, why is he roaming in the forest? And then one day, Bitsa got really annoyed and he said, this is my forest. And that, according to Mahashweta Devi, is the biggest statement which a tribal makes, and we must honor that statement. Thank you. So,
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Nivedita Mukherjee, for delivering such a beautiful, thought provoking lecture on the arboreal politics, the tribal studies, and the Mahashwata Devi's decades long struggle for the rights of the tribal people. Uh, I was reminiscent of one paper on King Lear. It was an eco-critical text, and it poses a very significant question: whom does a land belong to? And especially in the trial scene when Lear is proudly dividing his periphery, his kingdom, and distributing it among his two daughters.
Goneril and Reagan.
Yes, the question, of course, comes to our mind: does the land belong to man, or does a man belong to the land? That is the question. And of course, Guattari's rhizomatic politics, replacing the arboreal politics, is a very innovative way of thinking about the politics of land from a new light. So we shall open the floor for discussion after the second speaker completes his lecture, and we shall go to the second phase of our web lecture today. And the second speaker we have among us, he is from Yemen. So I welcome Akram Muhammad Ali Al Qazi from Yemen, and he is a lecturer and academic vice dean at the Al Kawat Community College, Al Mahawit, Yemen. And the topic of his paper is social media and its use in English language teaching. So I would like to request Mr. Ali to deliver his lecture. Sir, please. Yes. I think you are muted. Please unmute yourself first. Hello. Uh,
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Can you hear
Yes.
me, sir?
Yes. Now we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sir. First of all, I want to thank you all for inviting me to deliver this lecture. Actually, my lecture was a paper I have made. It is a case study, actually, but I'll try here to just go through the literature review and the results of this study I have made regarding, actually, it was regarding my country. Was a case study of the university I am teaching and the college I have been teaching there. So social media and its uses nowadays, it became a relevant study, especially in the case of this pandemic and the situation the whole globe is suffering from by COVID-19. Social media offers various platforms such as blogs and wikis and many other applications like uh, Facebook, Twitter, and many other applications for teachers to use in English teaching. And each platform provides many benefits in language educational process. And when the teacher decided to use social media in a class, they need to know which social media platform that can support and improve their students' outcomes, and which tool that they can use with the students to have them experience English language. This paper examined actually the social media applications that suits teaching English and explain how the English teachers can use them in the English field. The data of the study I have made is based on reviewing journals and books that are related to social media and some other applications, educational applications actually, which have appeared in the last decade. And that they help English teachers to find out what social media they can use for teaching English effectively. It's a reviewing ways of teaching and learning English as a foreign language actually, because in my country, and it's considered to be a foreign language, not a second language like many others and like in India. And it helps the teachers to improve students' language skills through these social media. It's an urgent need for providing teachers with the latest methods in English teaching. So here the technology changes the environment of our life and improves the choices of a flexible feature. For instance, the internet supplies students, educators, administrators with many opportunities to do their social or their professional duties when they need at any time or any place. The social media platforms have become common tools that is used by academic institutions, by everyone to share academic works, to share research findings, books reviews, and communicate with their peers and teachers. Tub Scott and Williams, in his book Economics in 2007, stated that uh, the new generation of learners are not content to be passive consumers, and increasingly their desire for choice, convenience, customization, and control by designing, producing, and distributing products themselves. Their members of the next generation use the web differently, and they network differently, they learn differently, and they start in university. Sorry, because we are at home, huh? One minute, please. Yes. So as I mentioned that members of the net generation use the net or the web differently, and the network differently, and they learn differently. And when they start at university, traditional values on how to develop knowledge collide with their values. Many of the teaching techniques that have been worked for decades do not work anymore in our days now, especially in this situation the world is going through. Many of the teaching techniques that have worked for decades do not work anymore because of new students learn differently too. The new generation is used to network, and its members work cooperatively. They execute several tasks at the same time and use the web to acquire knowledge. The external web applications such as blogs and wikis also, they have been much used by different countries, especially the developed countries like US and Japan, like in India also it is used, but we find that very small number of some institutions are using it for their students to create a communicative environment that engage them in conversations and motivate them to design their work and experiences. And here they shared knowledge and with other people. Recent researches stated that there is a need to continue reflective on teaching with web-based applications. And we have several applications nowadays, like here we have the top educational stores or applications like that can be used in schools and colleges also, like Kahoot, like Spellweather, like Google Classrooms, like Remind, like Seawords, like Edimodo, and amination kits. And these are used in some schools and the universities. And what I want to mention here is that Wikipedia and blogs are much used in some educational institutions. And there are different kind of blogs here. We can mention some of them. Blogger.com, one of these, Tumblr.com, WordPress.com, and KidBlog. These also, we have a Wikibox. Wikibox is a written media project that aims to creating a virtual place to collaborative writing. It is an open content text box that everyone can use for practicing, editing, writing. Wikibooks are also text box which are written by using wiki technology to develop and to distribute text box that marks a fundamental shift in the concept of text box. Many other institutions are still using it, but the percentage of these uses are that much low. So we find that some institutions are still not aware of these kind of techniques and how the teacher should be, and how to give this information to the teacher to be able to use such kind of media. We are all using these social medias in the personal level to develop them to come to the professional level of in teaching language, in teaching many other subjects. It's not only regarding English language or any other languages. We can use them in different ways. And the wiki ideas for teachers and students and also blogs can also create a kind of environment in which all the learners or the teachers also can interact with the learners in a way that can give a kind of effective results. Here I have also mentioned in the paper that some social media applications grow fast at all levels of the world. The possible methods to transmit education and the planning teaching materials have increased. Social media platforms provide teachers and students with the different advantages, such as improved instructional materials and endless resources that involves students with the various types of multimedia. It can also help teachers to engage students on classrooms activities that can be designed in the form of small groups and allow all the students to work together, integrate social media applications with teaching offers a variety of ways to teach curriculum and to provide students a healthy learning environment. Thus, students can learn effectively in their own space and time and with a sense of control over the learning. In addition, teaching through technology provides many levels of instruction in one room with a single teacher through YouTube videos, blogs, and wikis. Nowadays, students can have access to institutional materials at home, such as available videos on the internet, and all the learning materials are stored and distributed electronically on it. Therefore, the web-based applications are considered as a friend environment for English as a foreign language students to search related issues for websites, and there are the management of issues associated, and if they miss the regular classes, they are able to go to the website and find also the instructional materials they missed during their absence, and this provide a kind of uh, fixed materials. They can go back to any of these websites and search for the same lectures and listen to them again, and also they can have records if they got offline for some time. But in here, what we find is that the traditional social media like we are using in the personal level, like Facebook or Twitter, they are also found as helpful in the sense that we can make groups and we can provide lectures and on these kind of groups as privates. So there are advantages, and we are not coming here to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the social media. What we are concerned with is that we have to use these kind of social media in the ways we have to change the traditional methods we are using, because nowadays in the present situation we are forced to use these social media because there are no other choice. You are not allowed to lock down, and we are not allowed to attend the classes. We are not going to have that space in which we will have face-to-face interaction with the students. Thank you, sir. Hello.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ali, for presenting in such a beautiful way, because you know that virtual reality is the reality today, and we are to some extent compelled to access the social media platforms, the video conferencing interfaces, to continue to pursue our academic goals. Thank you very much for striking the keynote of this web lecture series. Now the floor is open for discussion. I request the audience to ask questions if you have any, or if you want to add something to the papers presented by our honorable invited speakers. The floor is open now. You can unmute yourself one by one, ask your question, give your suggestion, and then mute yourself to avoid any kind of disturbance to others. So the audience.
No questions?
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can listen to you.
Sir, I'm Dr. Shishpal from Palampur, Himachal Pradesh.
Namaskar.
I want to Namaskar, sir. I want to ask that how these people are interacting with their students online, and how the lectures are being given to them.
Okay, so I think the question is to Mr. Akram Ali.
Sorry,
So
I did
Mr.
not hear
Ali, okay, can you please repeat the question?
how they are interacting with their students online and how the lectures are being delivered to them in such a pandemic situation.
So what we are doing now is a kind of is an example of what can be done. This kind of lectures also can be recorded and they can be posted in Facebook or Twitter or any other platform like. So we are doing this. We are having these lectures because of the pandemic, because of the situation. We cannot meet in one place and we have lecture. So. These kind of applications like Zoom, which is called also one of the social media, you know, we have Google Meet, we have so many other applications that can be used for such kind of lectures. It's not, see, there is also kind of interaction. This kind of interaction will also help the students to have that space of asking and that space of interaction, let's say, in general.
Okay, there
But
is a
is there
question. Yes, okay. Okay, okay. Continue, please. Hello. Continue.
hello? But is there
Yeah,
any
continue.
but is there any sort of problem related with the net problem or any other thing, such
See,
communication?
it happens. See, it happens because see, there are so many problems that is facing such conference. I was afraid actually yesterday that I will not be able to attend today because yesterday at this time there was no power. There was a power cut, so I did not attend yesterday's lectures. So what I preferred is that if these lectures are recorded and posted and the students can see it at any other time, this is no problem.
But
Okay, so you
what
are
we see in
lucky enough.
Himachal, I am okay. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hello,
Okay, do you have another question, sir?
hello.
Hello, do you have any other question?
Yeah, as I'm teaching in a college over here in government college, in Himachal Pradesh we are facing such problem of communication and net problem also. So we are posting lectures on WhatsApp groups only. We are unable to do online classes face to face on online classes are not there, but we are only posting such things on WhatsApp groups.
Right, and and here is another question actually by simply literary. She asked question: in these changing times of online instructional engagement, even before COVID-19 pandemic, sir, how do we answer the rising challenge of diminishing psychomotor and effective skills of students? Yasmin from Osminga. Okay, let me tell you that here in before this pandemic, yes, also there was it should be like institutional kind of work. These the use of these social media or the web-based lectures or let's say conferences or whatever it is, or lectures in general. So these should be institutional based, means that in the university or the college you are in have that management to create such platforms, to create such groups of uh, uh, social media, to and to give the students their own passwords, their own emails to access these platforms and to attend these kind of activities in the institution.
Okay, there is another question posted in the chat box for Mr. Ali. It is someone from Simply Library Literary. The question is
Yes, that is the
in this.
question I have replied to now. That is the question that I
Okay,
have
okay,
replied to here now.
okay, okay. So I think there
Uh,
is no more
Hello?
question
There is
in
a
the chat box.
question for me, I think.
Yes, yes.
Hello?
Okay.
Ah, yes. Is this
Hello?
Komolika? Hello.
Yeah. Hello, good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning.
Yeah, sir, this is Abhavya Rattan from Nalanda, and my question is for
Okay.
Nivedita ma'am. Namaskar, sir. Ma'am, I have gone through a short story by Mahashweta Devi. It was entitled Noon in Hindi or Bangla, whatever we say, and its literal translation was salt in English. So I was basically asking you if there are some imperialistic elements in that short story, or how is that imperialistic element that you were just talking about? Are they even today present in the mindset of those tribals which we are talking here in the issue? So
Yes,
I would
of
like to
course.
share.
You know,
Yeah,
as I was going through the different interviews of Mahashweta Devi and all these things, she
yes, ma'am.
says that there is language itself. We all know language is
Okay.
a means, it's a vehicle of politics, all right.
Yeah,
It is the
yeah.
superiors, the very concept that they tried to introduce English in India. As I told you
Okay.
that Birsha was taken to a mission school, they were
Yeah.
being educated, and there was a father. Actually, it was not
Mm,
just language.
mm,
They were also trying to convert these people into their own religion. There is
mm,
nothing bad in conversion, but what I
mm.
mean is that it should be willing. All right. So this
Yeah.
politics was always there, this imperialist politics. And as
Mhm.
you know, you were talking about salt. Salt
Yeah.
has been a means of very big politics.
Yeah.
In fact, I think more than Mahashweta Devi, the salt politics was highlighted by Gandhi,
That's
Mahatma
true.
Gandhi in the Salt March. Actually, they
Yeah.
wanted to produce their own salt. It was a way of, protesting against the
Yes.
British rule,
The
because the
British. Yeah.
salt is made from the seawater.
Mhm.
And it is again an element of nature.
Nature.
Nature is giving us in bounty, and some
Mhm.
outsider, the imperial
Mhm.
lord in this case, is
Mhm.
using that very gift of
Natural.
nature
Yeah.
to kind of, to as a means of dominance. So this was protested, and Mahashweta Devi also highlights the same politics over here.
Okay. Okay.
I hope
Thank you, ma'am.
I have been able to clarify that.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, dear.
Is there any other question from the
Hello, sir.
audience?
Hello,
Yes.
sir. So my
Yes,
question
Mr.
is to
Tawfiq.
dear sir, Mr. Ali. How are you going to tackle the adversities that we face while taking or giving online class? I mean, how are you going to remove the slight barrier that lie between the teacher and the student in online class? And there's a communication gap there. We might face a communication gap while giving or taking online class. Hello, sir. So could you hear me?
Yes, now you may ask your question, please.
Okay. Uh, so my question is to dear sir, Mr. Ali. And how are we going to tackle the adversities that we face while taking or giving online class? I mean, how are we going to remove the barrier or the communication gap that lie between the teacher and the student? I mean, we might face a communication gap or little distraction, some kind of things.
Okay, in social media, or
Okay,
in
Rita.
that music, social gap. How I can like explain it to you here in such
ये
kind
मन
of
से है ये
lectures, there is nothing to mention about this social gap between students and teacher. It's
No, I mean,
we are all in the same boat. We are in the same shape of teaching and the process of education. So talking about social gaps in the process of teaching or in process of
ये
learning,
मन
it's
से है
yeah. Can you hear me?
yes, sir. Yes, I can hear you. So when actually in offline class we are totally engaged, but in online class sometimes we find that we are not totally engaged. We sometimes may be distracted,
or
Okay,
sometimes.
you mean on online. We are okay, we are connected, and but on offline there is a gap. See, uh, what we are talking about here is that we should use the social media in the effective way in which we are able to get the effective results. So in these gaps are not available in such kind of a process, in especially in I mean in the digital learning, let's say.
Okay, sir.
Mm.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Can I add something to this?
Yes, yes, ma'am, please.
Actually, what I felt is that your lecture was extremely illuminating. Thank you for that. What I was feeling is that, learning, especially in India, has been an imposition. Like right from the small age, parents tell the children, learn, you have to learn again in school, in college,
Right.
university. In the offline method, it is kind of an imposition. But when we are teaching online, the learner has the freedom to either choose to learn or
Or
choose
not.
not to learn.
True,
Okay,
true.
so over here, there is a direct agency. So learning here becomes a material of your personal interest. So that way, it actually allows you to choose whether you wish to learn or you don't wish to learn. All right. So we are somehow getting shifted from that imposition, or you can say,
Thank you.
I think there is some network glitches.
Yeah, I think it is. She added a very important point that here in online also it can be controlled, it can be impositioned also by the institutions. I mean here that the institutions can control this online learning, means the presence of even the presence of each learner can be registered, can be, you know, can be observed by the institution itself, by the teacher, by the group administrator. I think ma'am is coming back.
Sure, can I add on?
Yes, ma'am.
What I was trying to tell is that taking cue from what Nivedita.
Yes, I want to add something. As a teacher, one imposition. I always. Hello, hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes?
Yes, yes, yes. Actually, I was wanting to add something. As a teacher, the imposition I always apply on students, they may dislike it, is that they have to turn their cameras on all the time. I always compel them to keep their cameras on only for that reason, so that they may not be distracted, and so that I may have a proper surveillance of what they are doing.
Maybe,
Because
maybe they are attending, but only the voice, and they are doing something else.
yes, 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 they may be sleeping also, putting their cameras off. Okay,
Sure.
I have a question, ma'am. I have a question, Nivedadi. Hello, Nivedadi, can
yes,
you hear me?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, my question is how should we apply the rhizomatic theory of Guattari and deluge to the reading of this Aranyer Odhikar? Meaning, as much as I have understood, is that we should use nature in that way so that nature may not be damaged or harmed. Meaning, we should go back to the traditional way of living.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
my
yeah.
question is this perspective of mine correct, or do you want to add something else to it?
No, no. Actually, thank you. I actually support what you have been saying, but I won't really say the rhizomatic theory of Guattari and Deleuze. Rather, I would be referring to the theory they used in their ecosophy writings. All right. Over there, they have accepted that environment has a positive agency, and environment requires to be nurtured, to be cared for. I was actually trying to bring in Mahashweta Devi from that point of view. All right, I don't really support their point of view where they look upon trees as a symbol of imperialist invasion and all these things. I'm not in support of that. I am in support of their concept, which they have actually put forward in the ecosophical writings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
Thank you.
I have a question for you. I'm
Yes.
Tapan Mahato from Raman Government College. I'm asking you that in Devi's very books, we have saw that we have seen she is talking about the problems of tribal people. Is there any
Which
solution
which book?
in our
Which
books?
book?
Which book? Just like Oroner Odhikar, we saw that the forests are being cutted and the tribal peoples are facing trouble for their residential and other things. Is there any solution in her writings?
Actually, solution is personal awareness. All right. We all know that in our all colleges, different colleges, to speak of a truth, I think the college teachers over here, Jaya, Shaurav, all of them, Shamashri, all of them will agree with me that usually what happens, we in our NSS units, they plant huge number of trees, but how much care do we really take to see if those trees or saplings are actually growing up to be huge trees? All right. Usually, most of them are eaten by cows or goats, and this is the whole venture is spoiled. So, what we are doing actually, we are doing usually for the IQAC calendar or for something else. Mostly, we are doing it with a different purpose. When we think, and I feel this COVID-19 has seriously made us think that we need to not just plant tree, but we need to, that tree should be our life. We need to protect it just as we protect our children. Then only the purpose will be served. So the solution is totally a personal solution. And I can tell you, now nature is showing us that if we don't go for that solution, nature will obliterate humanity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Madam, I
I
have a
think I
question.
okay.
Yes.
Hello.
Oh,
Ma-
Oyun.
Hello.
Ma'am, I have a
Hello.
question. It was nice listening to you after a long time. My question is not directly related to Mahashweta Devi. It's a general question. Ma'am, do you think that the nature, or rather, don't you think that nature culture binary, this binary automatically dissolves when we talk about the tribals living in close vicinity with nature? In fact, they live more in harmony with nature than the so-called civilized lot. In fact, ma'am, there are a number of eco poems as well, which talk less about nature and more about the actual lives led by the tribal people in close vicinity with nature. In fact, Shodabda mentioned about Lear in The Tempest also.
I agree to that.
Ma'am,
Yes.
just a minute.
Yes,
In The
yes. Sure,
Tempest
sure.
also, ma'am, when Caliban puts his claim to Prospero, this island is mine by Sycorax. He takes care to mention that it is he who did acquaint Prospero with every nook and corner of the island, every natural attribute of the island, the berries, the fountains, the springs. Don't you
The
think
sweet
that, in
water.
fact, there are Calibans who live more in harmony with nature than the prosperous? That was my question.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Obviously, I think more than a question, this is actually a point of view, okay, an orientation, because obviously there are more Calibans and we need more Calibans in today's world, all right. We don't really need Prosperos anymore, those scientific magics which are helping us to control nature is no longer needed as such. And as I was telling you, Oronne Rodhikar is actually if these people have right to the forest, they will kind of, they will, of course, they will be hunting, they will be doing things, but they are have their own way of doing things. You know, in Canada, presently a project is going in where the majority, the white majority, they are being made to go to the reserves where the original inhabitants live, and they over there they are being taught how they can actually live in harmony with nature. All right, sustenance is possible in harmony with nature. That is what Mahashweta Devi has been saying again and again. So I agree with you. Caliburns are more necessary, and I think there are more Caliburns. But again, we
Thank you
have
so
to
much, ma'am.
save trees. Remember, our trees almost died out.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
And here I would like to add one point. There is a book called Beyond Romantic Eco-Criticism by Aston Nichols, and in the book Nichols coined a term called urban natural. By urban natural, he's suggesting that urbanity is not different or separate from the natural. We have to coalesce the two things in such a way so we can have that natural eco-critical environment in a completely urbanized dimension. Meaning, in a way, he is trying to challenge the binaries between nature and culture, and he used the term urban natural in the text. Okay, I think Joyadi is trying to say something. Please, Joyadi. Joyadi is with us. Dr. Joya Ghosh. Hello.
I was trying to
She
add on
was there.
actually.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Hello? I
You're
was
audible.
just, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes, yes.
I was just trying to add on to what Tonmoy was trying to say that and what your sir was trying to say with regard to social media and language teaching that see earlier in the classroom if the student was not attentive you could punish them,
Yes.
right? Many a times it so happened, but now as Nivedita was trying to say that we can't do it, it's the student's choice because it is becoming more learner centered, but
Yeah.
you see, it's also COVID-19. Say, perhaps if you take COVID-19's instance, then it is time for us to look into ourselves and coming to communion with our own inner self. If we could think of things in that way, that we have an outer self and we have an inner self. That way, then it's a kind of a time to get in communion with our inner self and think of what we are doing. And in that perspective, a student also in this new normal has to think of things in their own way. They have to adjust themselves in this kind of a platform. Yes, it's difficult, but then they have to, like all of us, have to adjust ourselves so that we can move on. Otherwise, life will come to a full stop. Academia will not be able to move forward. That was what I was trying to say actually. Like it's time to be true to ourselves also. Suppose now I keep myself logged on and I start reading a book, and you'll see that I am there, but I am actually not there. Now you won't be able to understand. So in a similar way, if a student is on logged on, you think that the student is there. Now, Shoro, you were saying that you ask your students to keep their cameras on. Like my students are living in very interior positions of the village where the internet is very slow, right? I can't ask them to keep their cameras on because they'll be saying that, well, with the video on, MB's consumption is high, right? So they'll be putting off their video, now I have to keep good faith that well, my student is there. So it's all about keeping faith in ourselves and faith in each other, right? That's what I was trying to say. I hope
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any other question
Hello,
from the
sir.
audience? Hello. Yes, Shankho.
Sir,
Okay.
yes, sir. Good afternoon,
Hmm.
everyone. Good afternoon, professors. My name is Shankho Subba Chaudhary. I'm from Ondathana Mahavidyalaya, 6th semester. Um, my question is not the use of social media on education affects or makes any conflict against the nature? Isn't this puts us in a position of compromisation? Uh, so, which one is beneficial? This physical education that we have received before this pandemic phase, or this virtual education we are now receiving during this time?
It
Isn't
depends
this
on.
isn't this compromise on our communicating skills, or on our physical on our personalities, or on us, or um,
Okay, I got it. See, yeah, the challenges are there. Okay, so what we have before COVID-19 situation and the lockdown, and what we are having now of online classes and lectures and conferences. See, it depends on you. It depends on you and what you want to learn and what you want to have. So we or institutions can make these kind of virtual lectures or online lectures available, and it depends on the students now here or to to be engaged in such activities or to let himself be, but still, if you are here, it means you have that, motive to learn. You're having these kind of lectures to help you to make a progress in what you are doing in your education. So this regarding when you talk about physical education, you mean face to face, you mean classroom, traditional classrooms. Yeah, there are advantages of these kind of classrooms and there are disadvantages for online classrooms also. But still, we are they are trying to give you space to learn in such kind of disasters, in such kind of lockdown or wars. And see, in the future, I want also to comment in the previous doctor who was talking about the situation and that here students are from so far villages and all. See, nowadays technology is also is always in progress. So now maybe after 1 year, less than 1 year, the 5G means fifth generation of internet maybe will be available for everywhere in every village, and it will be used. See, today we are starting like these lectures, but in the future there maybe it will be like the normal thing that we will have lectures in this way only. We cannot predict anything. Technology is growing so fast, and there will be no space for the traditional classes. We can expect that. Some people are talking about 10 years of this kind of situation with COVID-19, and we hope not. It will not continue to be like this. No, everybody is depressed in this lockdown and in this situation. Nobody is happy with what is going on, but we are forced to utilize the time. And through these lectures and through these conferences, we are trying to do something. We are trying to do something to help us to go forward. I hope I have agreed to. I answered the question.
Okay, is
Hello.
there any other question? Hello.
Ma'am,
thank you, sir.
ma'am, here I'm Kaushik Banerjee. Ma'am,
Yes.
can you hear me, ma'am?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Ma'am, I have a questions regarding
Yes.
your topic. Ma'am, ma'am, means they have means that tribal people don't have any gender barrier, or they strongly it is important at least in this time that they have a great immunity system and even immunity power. At least immunity power they have, means in this coronavirus pandemic, we at least we should follow them. So is there any organization or any other institute means they are means they have a propaganda to spread their means these facilities they have or their characteristic features? Even they are indigenous people, even the before the arrival of Aryan means we are the and we are the follower of that. So can you
tell about this? Means what is your take on it? Means how can this is spreaded? This can be spreaded. Means they have these
Now, as
immunity
I was
power.
telling you about the Canadian scenario, and even in US, the reserves, where actually, this is again a politics, that spatial politics, I'll refer to it as, because usually what happens, the people who are the original inhabitants, they are forced back. All right. They are made to live in certain ghettos. They are not really allowed total freedom as other people are. And in this process, they have lived, but they have lived in correlation with nature. So now the majority has realized that this they need to learn this mantra from the indigenous people. They are seriously working in traveling to those ghettos and living with them and learning their way of life. So this is sustenance in keeping with nature. And in India, actually, this Ganesh Devi, he was an avid supporter of Mahashweta Devi, and he has actually started a program for the decriminalized tribes of India. As you know, the Lodhas are also decriminalized tribes of India. All right. So he did it for the Charas. But I don't really know if there are groups over here who are uh, who are making an endeavor to learn from these tribals, their way of existence. But that is very much needed in today's world.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Even in Subodh Sarkar's essay চতুর্থ পানিপথের যুদ্ধ, the horror is the reflection of that Birsa Munda. So he is
Yeah.
living in the school. So I think it means is it not possible to include any such text or any that endeavor made by such persons to means in our syllabus, as if they get the at least they get the ideology to at least decolonize ourselves, because they are the indigenous people means before the arrival of us. So
No, these texts are being used. For instance, I know in Bankura University also Draupadi is being taught, right? In Purulia University, Draupadi is being taught. But that again is a gender binary, all right? Over there, the tribal perspective, over there also, actually how these people are being made the vehicles. It was, we must remember, wasn't the leader of that movement, nor was her husband. There were some men from the town, the urbanized groups, who were actually using them. The battle was fair, those are other things. But the fact is, they were being used as vehicles. Battle. It is only towards the end where she asserts her right. The very, you can say, the female body, which was used as a site for assertion by the Sena Naik and his people, she uses that very female body as a kind of trope for protest. That is where it is coming in, but not really in the sense Kaushik is referring to the tribals as living in close relation to nature. For that, we need text. Mahashweta Devi has written other text for this. For example, we have Salgira Dake, all right, in the call of a birthday. That again has been translated into Hindi also. It has been translated into English also. That again deals with the tribal movement before Birsa Munda, a movement earlier to Birsa Munda. And again, we have Choti Munda and his arrow. All right. So all these tales, he is actually over here speaking about the problem of the tribal people, irrespective of gender. But Draupadi is more of a gender study. And And yes, I agree, we need more of these texts to be included in our syllabus.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other question? Hello? Hello?
Hello, sir.
Yes?
So my question is to Nivedita, ma'am. Ma'am,
Okay.
are you hearing me?
Yes, but very faintly. I can't get your voice clearly.
Now, ma'am, are you getting me clearly?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I don't know whether my question is relevant or not, but please help me. Are not we are going against what Maheshweta Devi attempts to say, or her motive while educating ourselves on her? Like she attempts to say about nature, or to protect the nature and the tribals, and we are using this social networking, or excessive using of the social networking. We are deteriorating the nature, we are compromising the tribals. So aren't we going against her
You
while educating
know,
ourselves
I
on
have
herself?
understood your question, and that is again another problematic zone actually. But we need technology. All right, we can't say that from today we are going to stop all technology. We need technology, but there should be a balanced use of it, because when these 4G towers, I don't know how many of you are aware of the fact that when the 4G towers were placed in different areas, we stopped seeing some particular birds. All
Yes,
right,
ma'am.
earlier we
Yes, ma'am.
used to see lots of crows and other birds, but we
And
stopped
sparrows,
seeing
but
those birds. They were
yes,
being killed. All right, but this is a problem. But at the same time, when we are thinking of distant learning, now this COVID-19 situation has made it an emergency that we teach our students, but we teach them maintaining the social distance. They can learn from the safety of their homes. We need this. All right, we cannot ignore that. But yes, within limitations. Too much of use will lead to action. That is definite. Thank you.
thank you, ma'am.
Okay, is there any other question?
Hello, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes, you're audible.
Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
ma'am. My question is on behalf of Komalika Basu. She's unable to connect to the speaker. She wants to ask you, she's asking you to explain the arboreal politics for her.
Okay, this see, arboreal politics, as I was telling y'all, it is actually by and large a concept that we get from these French psychoanalysts and French social thinkers. They were geopolitical thinkers, and they related trees to imperialism, and trees were looked upon as a kind of political exertion, all right, of the imperialist rule. But over here, Mahashweta Devi herself, though of course I must accept the fact that Deleuze and Guattari, they also, though they spoke from this angle, again in their later works on ecosophy, they went against their own saying. All right, and they also felt that trees, there are other ways in which trees cannot really be looked upon as means of colonial exertion. All right, they thought of that too. And Mahashita Devi uses this very nature. It is, a way of the colony writing back. All right, it is kind of Mahashita Devi was writing back. She was using this concept of nature or trees in multiple of her works, and she has referred to this in her discussions with Gayatri Chakravarti Spivak. And according to her, trees or nature are the home of the forest people. So nature becomes a part of indigeneity. So in this way, she was studying this politics as a politics of survival. Survival both for the forest people and for the forest. Got it?
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, a very long interactive session. Is there anyone who wants to ask any other question? Okay, so I think all the questions have been answered. Thank you, the audience, because okay, Tapan Mahato has a question: is online learning going to be the future? Yes, it has been. It has already been answered by Mr.
It
Ali.
has become the future.
Yes, it will become the future, of course. So we are at the very end of today's web lecture, and I was telling something about the audience. I find the audience really very attentive and well informed. They asked many intelligent questions, and I thank you all the invited guests for giving us time to give lectures on the two important topics and very unique topics, of course. I hope the audience is very happy. And tomorrow we are going to have our third session, and the guests for tomorrow are Dr. Hemant Gulapali. He's from the University of Vidyasagar University, and he will be talking on heterogeneity. And we have Dr. Arnav Kumar Sinha from the University of Burdwan, and Dr. Sinha will talk on cultural liminality. And tomorrow, we shall also have a very good topic, that is Dr. Arnav Sinha's topic. He will be talking on Mamang Dai's poetry, and Mamang Dai is prescribed for the sixth sem Bankura University colleges. So I hope that the students will be benefited immensely. So for today, give us leave to call it a day. It was a wonderful session. Thank you, audience, everyone. Thank you. And yes,
Yes, thank you, audience, and
Thank you, everyone.
thank
Thank
you to
you, ma'am.
Shora for
Welcome.
having us,
welcome.
Yes, sir. Thank
for giving us this platform for speaking. Thank you.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
See you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.